welcome to this edition of Arkansans Ask. I'm your host, Tony Brooks. We're here to talk about a disease affecting Arkansas's deer and elk population, chronic wasting disease. We will have various experts joining us throughout this program to talk about how the state is responding to this important issue. To start us off, please welcome representatives of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, Mr. Jeff Crow, Chief of Staff and Incoming Director, Commissioner Ford Overton, Brad Carner, Wildlife Management Division Chief, and Brad Baxter, Wildlife Management Division Assistant Chief. We also want to hear from you, and our phone lines are open to take your calls at 1-800-662-2386. You could also email us at paffairs@aetn.org or join us on Twitter at AETN #RAsk. Now, let's get started. Brad, we're going to start off with you. First of all, what we're dealing with here, this is a chronic wasting disease is not caused by a virus or a bacteria, so it really complicates how we address this issue.
Yeah, that's correct. It's not like most other diseases that we're familiar with. It is a neurological disease that affects members of the deer family, and in our case here in Arkansas, that would be both deer and elk. And there's no known cure for the disease. It's always fatal. And it's caused, the infectious agent is a prion, or a misshaped or a misfolded protein. So it is very unique and unusual and difficult to manage.
So it's going to be a big issue.
It's going to be a challenge. Okay. The prions are very resilient. They don't break down with enzymes or disinfectants or heat, unlike other viruses or bacteria, so it is a long-term endeavor that we're facing here, yes.
Okay. We'll be talking more about that later in the program. Jeff, what does the detection of CW mean for Arkansas? Hunting is a part of our culture.
It certainly is, Tony, and you know, while this is a very important problem that we face, I think it's important for the public to know that we're still in the business of hunting deer in Arkansas. We will have deer season. It's safe to hunt and consume deer. Our staff has worked very hard to respond to this in an appropriate way, and you know, it changes the way that we do things in some ways. And you know, as we learn more about this disease and learn more about how much of it we have in our state, obviously it drives those decisions, and so we have a big job ahead of us, you know. But I think it's important for the public to know that our agency, with the support of our commissioners and our employees, we're in this for the long haul. This is a marathon, not a sprint, and we're committed to doing whatever we can to contain this disease and you know, manage the resource for the benefit of our natural resources, and also for the benefit of our sportsmen who enjoy them.
Mr. Overton, how did the commission react when you learned that it is indeed here?
Good question. I got a call from Chief of Staff Crow on February the 23rd, and Chief of Staff had called, like all the commissioners, and notified them that we had a positive and then a confirmation positive. And it wasn't 2.5 hours later that Chairman Mahoney had called an emergency commission meeting to sit down and determine what we're going to do. One of the things that immediately I learned is that we already had a CWD plan in place that was put together back in 2007, being proactive to if this disease ever came into Arkansas. And Brad and his staff presented a revised CWD plan at that meeting, and we immediately got to work on it. So,
we're ready. Brad, how can you tell if a deer or an elk has CWD?
Well, in a lot of cases, you can't tell. They appear to be healthy. In the latter stages of the disease, they'll start to show some symptoms. Could have a drooping head, ears, just kind of a wide stance as they're standing. They could have excessive salivation, urination, go to water for excessive drinking. Those are some of the latter stage symptoms, but it could take several months before an animal starts showing symptoms of the disease. But it is important to point out that those same symptoms are also symptoms of other diseases. So just because someone sees an animal with those symptoms doesn't necessarily mean it's chronic wasting disease. It could be hemorrhagic disease or brain worms in elk. Those animals also show the same symptoms as well.
Okay. Dick, if you see a deer, if someone's out in the woods and they see a deer or an elk exhibiting CWD symptoms, what should they do?
Yes, sir, absolutely. We want people to contact us if they see any sick deer or elk anywhere in the state. We're very interested in trying to determine what the spatial distribution of CWD is in Arkansas right now. We've gone through a phase where we've tried to look at prevalence in Newton County. Now we're trying to find out where exactly it is in this state. We're collecting sick deer and we're picking up roadkill statewide, so we just want them to contact the Game and Fish anytime they see a sick or dead deer.
Okay. Jeff, Arkansas Game and Fish has been working for decades. You've known this was coming when it was discovered out in Colorado back in the late 60s and confirmed in the late 70s. So you've known it's been making its way to Arkansas, so you guys have had at least some time to prepare.
We have. Our staff has been very proactive. Obviously, I don't think any of us expected to find this much of it this soon, but I don't think we were taken by surprise that it did show up. And I think it's a credit to our staff, the way that they've that work they've done proactively has set us up to respond probably in a more decisive way than if we not taken those steps in previous years.
Now that we know it's here, that we definitely know that the disease is here, has the strategy changed?
It has changed a little bit, as Jeff just mentioned. The prevalence rate that we found in our phase 1 sampling is a lot greater than we had originally anticipated, and so that's caused us to slightly tweak how we're responding. The management strategy hasn't changed a lot. The approach is to try to slow the spread as much as possible, try to contain it as long as you can. The prions do persist in the environment indefinitely. They don't break down, and so once you have it in an area, it's always there, but you try to slow how far it spreads out over time. And so, but we were surprised by the prevalence that we found in Newton County.
One thing to keep in mind, though, is that we're the 24th state that's had it, so it's not new ground for state wildlife agencies. We can rely on the 23 states that have had it before us and 2 Canadian provinces and learn from what they've done. They did some things right, they did some things wrong. We're trying to learn from that and do the best that we can to prolong our healthy, robust deer herd and ensure that we've got deer out there to hunt for generations to come.
When we look at the national map of instances of CWD across the country, it started in Colorado, but we see cells in the Northeast, in Wisconsin, Missouri, and Arkansas. How is it traveling those distances?
Yeah, the disease, it spreads deer to deer, and like Brad mentioned before, it can remain in the environment and deer can pick it up from there, but also it can't make those great leaps without some human help.
Right.
So there's pretty strong evidence that it's being moved by infected carcasses out of an endemic area into a new area being introduced there, and also live infected deer and elk. Especially in the captive deer industry, have been moved around, and it's well documented. This has been moved around by people hundreds of miles away from where it was previously.
How does the rate here in Arkansas compare with the other states that have it?
Well, for the eastern United States, we're comparable to Wisconsin, but in a very small area. Wisconsin has it in a little bit larger area at the same prevalence rate, but ours so far, as far as we know, it's in a small area at that prevalence rate. But there are places in the west, Wyoming, Colorado, that have areas that are the size of one of our physiographic regions, like the Ozarks, for instance, where they have a higher prevalence rate in that entire area than we do in our little capsule that we tested in.
Okay. If you're just tuning in, we're going to provide you with an overview of what we've just discussed and shed some light on what the state has learned so far about chronic wasting disease in this piece produced by the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission.
Chronic wasting disease has affected populations of deer, elk, and other members of the deer family in many regions of North America. In late February, Arkansas became the 24th state where the disease was detected. The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission received confirmation February 23rd that an elk taken by a hunter near the Buffalo River in October 2015 had tested positive. Just over 2 weeks later, Game and Fish learned a white-tailed deer found dead near Ponca also had tested positive for the fatal neurological disease.
Chronic wasting disease, or CWD, is a neurological disease that affects members of the deer family, which here in Arkansas will be white-tailed deer and elk. It's an always fatal disease. There's no cure for CWD, and it's not caused by bacteria or virus. It's actually caused by an abnormally shaped protein called a prion.
CWD is part of a group of diseases that includes mad cow disease and scrapie in sheep. It attacks an animal's nervous system and eventually kills it. Symptoms may include poor body condition and drooping ears, as well as excessive salivation and urination, which leads to many affected animals lingering in or near bodies of water. The disease can spread directly from animal to animal and indirectly through contact with contaminated soil or plants.
Chronic wasting disease was first identified in a captive cervid population in 1967, and then several years passed before it was identified in a wild population in 1981. Then from that point, it started a gradual eastward movement.
Over the past 15 years, the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission has enacted numerous regulations to try to keep CWD away from the natural state. Game and Fish also has collected thousands of samples for CWD testing since 1997.
We began testing our elk herd in 1997 for chronic wasting disease. Our white-tailed deer herd began monitoring of those animals began testing in 2003 with over 8,000 samples being collected statewide. We felt like it was a matter of not if, but when the disease would be detected in our state. In 2006, we developed a CWD response plan that would better prepare us for the day when the disease was detected.
Although CWD isn't known to be transmissible to humans or livestock, there are public health issues to consider.
As far as we know, it is not transmissible to humans at all. In other states where they have chronic wasting disease and they are looking and studying this, they have found no human disease at all. But to be on the safe side in an overabundance of caution, it is recommended by CDC, by the World Health Organization, and by the Department of Health that you not eat meat from an animal that you know is infected with chronic wasting disease or you suspect might be.
More information on CWD is available at agfc.com/CWD.
Now joining us are Corey Gray, Deer Program Coordinator, Ralph Meeker, Assistant Deer Program Coordinator, and Wes Wright, Elk Program Coordinator. We're all here with the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, and back with us is Brad Carter. Gentlemen, welcome back. Corey, how do you positively confirm the presence of CWD in the deer?
It's a laboratory test. We're not able to just visually look at that animal and say, that's 100% certain that animal has the disease or not has the disease. The gold standard is called an AHC method, where we had to pull the Obex and some lymph nodes. We send it off to the lab to be tested. So that's the gold standard. We know for certain.
Okay, I want to go to some questions from, we're getting several emails from the audience here. We got one from, it says, what's the reason for wanting to stop feeding the white-tailed deer? Does it have to do with the chronic waste disease? If so, how would feeding affect CWD? And we've talked before the program here, we talked a little bit about the big difference between baiting and feeding. So there is a difference there. So
That's right. I mean, the placement of any kind of food for wildlife and specifically deer, we're concentrating those animals. We're making them be in a small area, and so that increases your risk for disease transmission, and that's something that we want to avoid. We're trying to differentiate between baiting and feeding. Feeding is just placing bait to attract animals. We're going to try to use baiting for a short period of time to harvest those animals to reduce our deer densities, which is in turn going to decrease our concentration of animals over time.
okay, got another question here. I live in Crossett, How will the CWD regulations affect us in Ashley County? I'm sure I'm speaking for everyone from down here. We want to do the right thing to protect our herd. So that's a good response, because hunters are on the front line. That's who you guys are depending on to keep you updated
exactly right.
and take the actions that need to be taken. So what can they do?
I mean, that's an excellent point, that we are going to be dependent upon the sportsmen of Arkansas, the hunters, to actually perform the management actions. All we can do is establish the regulations, but they're the hunters out there deciding to pull the trigger to harvest an animal. They're making the management decisions to help control this disease. So for that question there coming from CrossIT, part of the proposals that we have made to our commission that would impact that area would be the restriction on feeding of wildlife, baiting, which is placement of food for the intent of hunting over, would be allowed from October to December. But other than that, there are no proposed regulation changes for the South Arkansas area.
Okay. Tyler wants to know, why prohibit food plots and mineral sites when this is providing the deer with nutrients they need to be healthier? So you kind of need to correct.
Well, yeah, and there's a difference. The mineral licks and the salt licks, that would be considered baiting or feeding. But the food plots are totally separate, and those would still be allowable. Food plots are a lot more of a natural attractant. Those animals aren't specifically sticking their nose or their mouth in a small area, so we can spread that out, and it more mimics their natural feeding behaviors.
Okay. Wes, are elk more susceptible to CWD than deer?
Initially here in Arkansas, we found that they are not. The prevalence in elk shows to be a little lower, and that's even with a target bias, high of sampling. We're looking specifically for target animals, or for animals that are showing signs of neurological disorders. And so by looking at that, you're initially going to have a higher prevalence. But looking at other states as well, it shows that elk are just less prevalent than what white-tailed deer have.
One question I've heard is, if I harvest an elk or a deer, can I get it tested for CWD? Say it's exhibiting no symptoms, can I harvest the deer, keep the meat, and have it tested to see if it's safe for consumption?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're getting that question quite a bit, and we're working on a means for that. And what we're doing is looking at other states. We also understand, though, there's going to be some limitations, budgetary and things like that. But we also looking at what other states do and how they can provide a service to the hunters, because we know that we want to provide some sort of a confidence there for the hunter. But at the same point, though, it's crucial that we understand that this is not a food safety test. The test we perform just tells if that animal had the disease or not, but it's not a food safety test.
Right. Okay. There have been some regulations proposed that will be voted on later, and don't want to go through all of these, but I think there's some that we need to touch on. The first one allowed deer and elk hunting with the use of bait October 1st through the 31st statewide. So there will be baiting allowed. Yes. And again, we're talking about the difference between baiting and feeding.
We look at bait as a tool, and we want to utilize that tool to remove animals from the landscape. And hunters are our most efficient management strategy that we have. We need animals removed, so therefore we want to use the tool of baiting from October 1st to December 31st, and that's when 95% of our harvest occurs anyway. So we want hunters to utilize that to ensure that they're taking the proper amount of deer off the landscape. But then once that tool becomes ineffective, then take it away.
Right.
And I think that'll benefit us on multiple levels.
Okay. Another of the regulation proposes establishing a core elk management zone and a statewide elk management zone. So explain that to me.
Yeah, we consider, we have a 5-county elk range, elk zone. That's primarily where our elk reside in Arkansas, and that is Boone, Carroll, Madison, Newton, and Searcy counties. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a statewide zone. So anything outside of those 5 counties, we're actually going to allow deer hunters to harvest elk. They don't have to have any kind of special permit or anything. So as long as that elk is outside that core zone, we're actually going to allow them to harvest them. That's going to do a couple different things. Throughout the years, we've had reports of elk outside of what we consider elk range. And so we've never really had a method to be able to remove those animals for testing, for one. And then also, they're just in places where they shouldn't be. So again, this is going to allow us to take elk off the landscape, to test for chronic wasting disease. We'll also be able to look for genetics of those elk, test them to see, what was the origin. Was that one of our Arkansas elk, or was that maybe a transient from another state, or maybe an escaped captive? But again, it's going to allow us to take those elk off the landscape.
Another requirement is that harvested elk be submitted to for testing for CWD. That's precaution.
Yeah, up until this point, it's been voluntary that people give us a chronic wasting disease sample, but we're going to go ahead and make it mandatory. We're talking about very few animals that are being harvested compared to deer each year, so we feel like we can take that on and go ahead and test all of those animals. It's just going to help us look at the distribution of the disease across the landscape within elk range, and then also the prevalence within our elk herd.
Okay. I won't go into these individually, but there are a couple of things in here that liberalize the season structure in some zones and in several areas. Explain that to me, how that's going to happen.
Yeah, we're proposing the number one is that we allow hunters to harvest button bucks and they not count against their bag limit. We're proposing that we do away with what we call the 3-point rule in a couple deer zones, and both of those are designed to help us reduce deer densities. Not just reduce deer densities, but what we've found through our sampling is our bucks seem to be higher prevalence or carriers of this CWD. So we want to do what we can to reduce their dispersion out of that area. And like I said, reduce the overall deer density in that area as well.
Now the CWD zone right now that exists is kind of a capsule-shaped zone up in Newton and some of the surrounding counties. Is that the zone? I mean, you guys are looking at that specific area and just the adjacent counties today?
Well, that was our focal area. That's what we focused in on to get prevalence, the percent of the animals that was infected. For far as season lengths and bag limits and antler restrictions, things like that, we're looking at deer zones 1 and 2. It's where that will be applied. And I think it's important to mention in those deer zones 1 and 2 is the harvest has went up in recent years. Hunters have been doing a great job of managing the deer herd in those 2 areas. And what we're wanting to do by increasing the bag limit just by 1 doe and then removing antler restriction is just to kind of bump that a little bit, because we don't want density to get too high. That's one of the strategies of this disease, is to keep deer densities at that lower level so we can manage prevalence. And I know we've gotten a lot of criticism over that because we've been in a quality deer management mode for so many years, and now we're having to swap gears to disease management.
Right.
And it's not anything that we enjoy doing, but it's a necessity.
Okay. We're still getting questions here. One writes, what's the reason for wanting to stop feeding the white-tailed deer? Does this have to do with the chronic waste disease? If so, how would it affect chronic waste disease? So there's still some confusion out there about baiting versus feeding.
Yeah.
That's it, and again, it goes back to prevalence. When you have the bait that's applied or the feeding that's applied, and it's applied daily, day after day, and you have these animals coming up and the abnormal feeding behaviors, then it's kind of like placing, if you have a small child in a room with the flu and you put 2 more well children in there, better odds that they're going to come out all with the flu. And it's the same way with these artificial baiting stations.
Okay. We have a call from Washington County. Can urine transmit in-state bought products? So I'm saying, can this be transmitted to other products? I'm not sure what they're talking about here, but that is one of the methods by which it's transmitted, through urine.
Yeah, and I think maybe what the question's getting at is the prion, the infectious agent for the disease, can be spread through urine, saliva, blood, less likely, but there is concern that deer scents and lures that contain deer urine has the potential to spread the disease. And so we have proposed a prohibition on the use of deer scents and lures with deer urine that would be in effect January 1st of 2017. Most all of that comes from captive deer farms in northern states that are CWD positive states, and so we're concerned about the possible introduction of the disease into new areas of the state from the use of those deer scents and lures.
So even if a deer wasn't exhibiting symptoms, if they collected urine, it could have the prions in it, and you could be spreading the disease.
Correct.
Okay. A question here from Cleveland County. Why does it take so long to get the results back from testing, and why are we using a company from out of state?
That's a good question too. We're getting a turnaround time of about 10 days. And when we ship samples every Friday, when they arrive in the lab, they have to be cut and stained and pressed, and then there's a lab technician, the pathologist that has to review every one of those slides, and then they're reviewed again microscopically, and then we get the results back, which is 7 to 10 days is a pretty fast pace. I wish we could keep them all in state, but right now there's just not a lab in state that does that testing. We're hoping that maybe down the line that a lab will take this on inside our borders where we can keep our money home, but right now it's just not available. So they're going to the University of Wisconsin. It's where our deer samples, Colorado State, are doing our elk samples.
Okay.
One other thing I would add, and the question might be alluding to, our initial positive sample was from a hunter harvested elk that was harvested in October. We didn't get the test results until February. Prior to our initial detection, we would submit samples twice a year. We would go through the entire hunting season, collect all of our samples from that hunting season, and then submit those to the lab then. So that initial positive, there was a few months before we got that notice, but that was the reason for that initial delay.
So, but to be conclusive, I mean, to be sure, you have to test the brain stem and materials from that nervous system of the deer. I've got a question here from there now. 2 options for live testing deer and elk recently approved in Texas. Does Arkansas Game and Fish plan to use these live testing procedures for CWD where the animals don't have to be killed?
No, right now those are not USD approved tests. There is ongoing research with tonsil biopsies and rectal biopsies, but there are some problems associated with those tests. So right now we don't feel comfortable enough that those tests are reliable into giving us accurate results.
Okay, here's a hard one. And how long has it been in the state from Pulaski County? Anyone want to?
Yeah, that is a hard one, and we don't know, and it's difficult sometimes because we try our best to stay in the world of what we know, however small that world may be. That's where we'd like to reside, but we can feel pretty confident though that this disease has been here for decades, but we don't know how long or exactly how it got here. We're not certain, and so therefore we just say now we have it. We know where it's at now, and so therefore we've got to manage it. We just can't walk away from it.
Well, after all, when the disease was first detected, it really wasn't identified as a chronic wasting disease, as a TSE, but until '78 when the doctor did the test on that. So there's still a lot of unknowns about this.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, there's still a lot of unanswered questions, lots of ongoing research, both on live animal tests and other aspects of CWD. But there remain a lot of unknowns and a lot of unanswered questions. And so our response plan and our approach is dealing with the best available information and the best science available to date. And we'll adapt as that information evolves and changes. We'll adapt our approach appropriately.
Okay. Here's a question from Pope County. Is CWD more prevalent in the bucks or does?
It's more prevalent in bucks, and what we have found in Newton County pretty much mimics what a lot of other states have found, that bucks are considerably more prevalent. CWD is more prevalent in bucks, and primarily older age classes.
Is it because of the way they the bucks travel? I mean, deer stay in a pretty tight herd, except for the young bucks that will venture out from the herd. Is that the reason?
I think that's probably part of it, and if you think about just the biology of those bucks too, that they're visiting scrapes and where urine and other potential for the prions are, and so they're coming in contact with a lot of animals and covering a lot of ground, so that's probably part of it too. I would also mention, contrasting deer in elk, the prevalence is higher in cows compared to bulls in elk, so it's right the opposite as in what's found in deer.
Okay. This question from Faulkner County, are some of the deer less susceptible to the disease? Will those less susceptible increase their survival rates over time? Another one that we may not know the answer to.
There appears to be a genetic makeup, a genotype that may be more resilient to the disease. Now, once you acquire the disease, the end is always death. So there is no super genotype out there that protects you from it, but it does seem that maybe some are more resilient to it. But one of the things we've been looking at is maybe these genotypes that have more resilience to the disease may be less fit than another disease.
Right.
They may be more susceptible to another disease. Okay. So there's a trade-off.
A question here from Garland County, what should you do with the guts of the deer? So when you do a field dressing, is there something you could do as a hunter when disposing of those entrails from the deer to help at least slow down the spread of this disease?
Yeah, carcass disposal will be a huge issue. And we'll have some management practices, suggestions coming out very soon. But burial is a good technique, a lined landfill if that's available. But leave the carcass on site. Don't transport the whole carcass, the entrails, to another location, especially in another county. And then incineration, which very few people have access to those. But if you do, that's a preferred method. But I would definitely recommend burial. Or leave where the animal was harvested. Leave those parts right there.
Okay. From Washington County, will people who feed deer and not hunt be allowed to continue to do so? And has CWD been found in Washington County?
From what we've proposed, people who are interested in feeding will not be allowed to just to feed. And at this point, it has not been detected in Washington County. Only Madison County is as far west.
Okay. Should hunters harvest sick deer? If you see a deer and you suspect it may have CWD, should you take that deer?
Well, I'm trying to figure out a way to
These are hard questions.
Yeah, I just can't, unloose the reins and allow people to start, shooting deer. What we would ask you to do if you come across a sick animal, one that's showing abnormal symptoms, is please give us a call. Call a radio room number that we have staff operating that room 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Those individuals will direct that call to a local wildlife officer. But I can't just say, yeah, shoot it, whatever
Sure.
you think out there. We just can't do that.
Okay. This from Johnson County. Why don't we just let it run its course?
That's true. And I know Ralph, but we're worried about prevalence rate.
Sure.
At what point will the glass tip? When you look at other states that where prevalence rate may get up to 40 to 50%, at what point will the whitetail, as the population tips and starts going down? So we're going to try our best to manage this prevalence rate so we don't get to that tipping point where the population starts going down.
Okay, here's a Twitter question. Why eliminate orphan fawn rehab in counties even if unaffected by CWD?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one is we don't know exactly where in the state we do have CWD. We know some areas that we do for sure, but we're testing throughout the state. So there may be some other places that we haven't detected yet. And the second part of that is we want to limit the transfer of deer from county to county and across the state, potentially from positive areas to places that don't have CWD. We don't know where those deer come from, and it's just best we let Mother Nature take its course.
Okay. All right, right now we're going to check out some of the work that the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission has done and is doing to contain CWD.
Since the February confirmation of chronic wasting disease, the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission has focused its efforts on gaining a better understanding of CWD's prevalence and distribution in the state.
The first phase of our response plan consisted of trying to determine prevalence of the disease. We developed a 125,000-acre focal area in Newton County where we randomly collected 266 white-tailed deer. Of those samples collected, 62 were determined positive for chronic wasting disease, which equates to a 23% prevalence rate.
The second phase of the Game and Fish response allowed wildlife officials to determine the extent of CWD's reach in Arkansas.
Phase 2 of our response plan consisted of trying to determine spatial distribution of chronic wasting disease. In order to accomplish this, we focused on roadkill deer and target deer throughout the state. When you look at the 23 other states that are positive for chronic wasting disease, we learned that a higher prevalence rate was determined in roadkill animals. So you had better odds of detecting the disease if you focused on sampling these roadkill animals. We consider a target deer any deer that's showing some sort of abnormal actions or neurological abnormalities.
Based on their findings, Game and Fish wildlife biologists developed new hunting regulations proposals and presented them to the Game and Fish Commissioners last week. The commission is scheduled to vote on hunting regulations in June.
Our next phase of disease management will involve regulation setting. These regulations are designed to help contain the disease, to stabilize prevalence rates, also avoid or minimize spatial distribution. We want hunters to be partners with us in this endeavor. We want the public to be partners with us through this challenge and understand that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And we're in it for the long haul. CWD takes its time across the landscape, and so we need to have a long-term commitment.
Joining us now in our final segment are Dr. Sue Weinstein, State Public Health Veterinarian for the Arkansas Department of Health, Don White, Wildlife Ecologist at the University of Arkansas at Monticello, and Corey Gray, and of course Dick Baxter's back with us. Gentlemen, thank you. Lady, thank you for being with us, Doctor. We'll start with you. To date, there's been no evidence of CWD being transmitted to humans, but we still need to take precautions.
Yeah, I think we do. CWD has been around for a long time now. There's no scientific evidence so far that people can get it, but in an overabundance of caution, we do recommend, both CDC and the Arkansas Department of Health recommend that if an animal is sick, you not eat the meat from it. If you're aware that it was sick, don't eat it.
Okay. Don, we've talked about the vulnerability of elk to CWD. Does the range of elk as opposed to the range of deer, is that a factor in the spread of the disease?
Well, you know, we don't know. We do know, however, that elk have a much larger home range than white-tailed deer do. For a 5-year period of time, several years ago, I followed around about 54 bull elk in Arkansas, and the average home range, home ranges average anywhere from 8,000 to about 50,000 acres, which are much larger than you'll find in white-tailed deer. So, you know, I don't know that how much they move is going to matter, but certainly elk have larger home ranges than white-tailed deer do. In fact, considerably smaller.
Okay. Here's a question from Pope County that cuts right to the chase. Could CWD wipe out our deer population?
I don't believe so. You know, that extinction card has been well overplayed over time, and when you look at other states that have CWD, and that's one of the benefits to us being the 24th state is there's 23 other states out there that's fought this disease, and they're not seeing the white-tailed deer population go extinct or you know, being wiped out or anything. So we don't need to travel down that path. Now, it's going to alter management in that area, but we're still in this, you know, again, for the long haul. Like we said, it was a marathon. But no, sir, extinction's not on the table.
Okay. I think we have a graphic. We're talking about the counties where CWD has been found in Arkansas, and I guess it started in Newton County where the first case was confirmed. What are we looking at now? We have a map here that we're seeing where the cases have been confirmed. Does this typify normal spread of this disease?
Well, we really don't know about the spread so far, but with that prevalence rate, it's likely that we're going to find more positive cases 30 to 50 or more miles from that really hot focal area there. Right now we have it, we know for a fact we have it in Boone, Carroll, Madison, Newton, and Polk counties. But yeah, we're just going to have to do more surveillance over time and find out what the true distribution of it is in the state. So far, we have one in southern Polk County, which is about 44 miles south of our original sampling area, and we're continuing to pick up road-killed deer, targeted deer, any samples we can get, and try to determine where it is in the state.
Okay. I know that some of you have already encountered this question. Did the elk introduction bring in CWD? Will the food plots be banned, and will mineral deposits be banned? So the first question I know has been asked before. Did the introduction of elk into Arkansas bring this disorder?
It's possible. It is possible. There's other things that could have happened also. An infected carcass could have come in. An infected captive animal could have been released there. There's lots of things that could have happened. We don't know that. What we do know is that we have it. Looks like we've had it for a while, and we're going to do our best to manage it. Can't help but brag on our staff. These folks have been really committed to putting in tons of extra hours. We've been very transparent with the public. 22 public meetings in about a 3-month period. That's pretty well unheard of at Game and Fish Commission anywhere in the country. We're working hard to manage it. We're learning from our colleagues in other states that already have it. And we're doing everything that we can to stay committed and make sure that our deer populations are healthy. I don't know if it's been mentioned before, but we're all deer hunters. This is very near and dear to us, extremely near and dear. So we want to do everything that we can to make sure that this is managed properly and we go the right direction with our management strategies.
Okay, so if someone wants more information, we've covered a lot of area here, but if someone would like more information, they can visit the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission website, and it has a great deal of information there about chronic waste disease.
Game and Fish website. Another good site would be cwdinfo.org. That's Chronic Wasting Disease Alliance. There's a ton of information on there. You can read and read and read about CWD.
Okay. Here's another question. Can CWD be transmitted to livestock?
As far as we know, it cannot be. Experimentally, they've tried to introduce it into the brain, and they find that with cattle, they don't seem to get CWD as easily, even experimentally injected into the brain, as they do the mad cow or the BSE disease.
I don't want to make too much of a comparison, but is mad cow, it is a prion TSE, but it is still different than CWD.
Yes, it is. It is a different prion, just like you have different bacteria and different viruses. So there are different prion diseases as well.
So actually these prions in all of these instances are misformed proteins, if you will. And we've learned that these proteins, these prions, can be taken up in plants. So that's just another method of spreading CWD.
Well, that was in a laboratory setting.
Oh, okay.
And that's where we need to throw a little caution here.
Sure.
Is what they're able to do in a lab does not necessarily equate to the real world wild setting. And so until that research has been conducted in a wild setting, we don't need to travel down that path.
Okay.
But yes, in the lab, they were able to get plants to uptake the prions.
Okay.
But also in what amount. We really don't know what the infectious dose is.
Right.
So that's something to keep in consideration also.
Okay. Here's a question from Independence County. Can does still reproduce if they're CWD positive, and will the fawn be infected at birth?
They can. I mean, they're still functioning there to a certain degree, and that's one thing about this disease. It can remain dormant. It may not show itself for several months. And as far as the doe passing it on to the fawn, it seems like the placenta can do marvelous things there and protect the fawn. But once that fawn is born and on the ground, mother starts grooming it.
Right.
So if she's infected, then she may be passing on prions to that fawn just by the social grooming the first day of life.
Is there a predominant age of deer that you found that have CWD? Are they more older deer or middle age, 2.5 years? I read somewhere that.
Typically, you're going to see your adult bucks are going to have your highest prevalence rates. But what we found in our sampling in Newton County in our focal area was that there was really no age bias associated with it. We had all age classes from fawn up through 5.5-year-old doe that seemed to have similar prevalence rates. So, but yeah, typically what you're going to see outside of that tight area there is going to be your adults are going to have the highest prevalence rates.
Okay. Here's a question from Dumas. Will the Arkansas River act as a boundary for CWD?
Deer are good swimmers, and that includes elk. So I don't suspect any body of water will be impermeable to movement of CWD. I think that's not going to be an issue. Yeah.
These prions can remain viable for some time, and they're extremely difficult to destroy. And we talked about this a little earlier, but can hunters help prevent the spread of these prions? What are some of the things that hunters can do, that we can do to help?
Yeah, we visited about this earlier, about carcass disposal.
Right.
But for those areas, and one of our regulations is the containment, so it pertains to those CWD positive counties. But don't move entire carcasses out of those counties. Only move, deboned meat, cleaned antlers, clean skulls, hides, things of that nature can come out. But all the entrails, bones, the lymphatic system, all those organs need to stay where that animal was taken in that county of harvest.
Okay. Here's a question from Pulaski County. Is CWD close or anything like Alzheimer's disease?
Well, they both affect the brain, but as far as we're aware, Alzheimer's is not a prion disease. So we think that although some of the symptoms might be the same, we don't believe they're related.
Okay. From Van Buren County, will sampling be available for harvested deer if someone's concerned?
Yeah, that was one of the things, again, we talked about, but we're looking at a plan for that. We understand that hunters are going to be concerned, but I want to reiterate to them it's not a food safety test. So if we perform a chronic wasting disease test on your animal, on the animal taken, it only tells you whether the disease was detected or not. It doesn't say if the meat is safe for consumption. So we don't recommend you consume any harvested any sick animal, regardless of chronic wasting disease, any kind of illness out there. We would not recommend you consume that meat.
Okay.
But healthy appearing animals, I wouldn't hesitate at all to eat it.
Right.
Okay. We have a question here from a deer processor who wants to know if this could be affecting him and what he could do to keep himself safe.
Well, he should be wearing gloves all the time, and certainly if they're using saws to cut through bones, goggles, personal protective gear, so that he doesn't get any of the splatter into his system. But he should be doing that anyway.
Right.
Whether we have CWD or not.
Right.
I mean, those are just things that he should be doing anyway.
Exactly. This is from Benton County. How long does an animal have this disease before they die? And it's always fatal, but I presume that would be variables in that.
It can be a couple years to up to 5 or more years. It's correlated to the amount of prions that they have actually taken in and their genotype.
I think if a fawn is exposed very early in life, however, they'll become symptomatic in a year, maybe less, and die not long after that. So a fawn exposed early could die as early as a year or a year and a half old.
Okay. Here's a question regarding some of the regulations. Can you cross Arkansas with meat that hasn't been deboned?
Now we have a carcass importation law, so anywhere outside the borders of Arkansas, it must be deboned meat, cleaned antlers, clean skulls, hides. There's a list of items that you can bring through our state or into our state. There's I think 37 states currently that has a carcass importation law. So if you go out west, make sure that you read all the regulations for every state that you drive through. And that's where you go to cwd-info.org, CWD Alliance, and they'll have a listing there of all the states and the regulations.
Okay. Here's a question from Lono County. Again, where is CWD in the state? We have the graphic. We've been talking about that. We may show that graphic again. Will there be a study to determine if licensed sales will decrease because of this?
Yeah, we're going to continue to monitor that, and we hope not. I mean, that's one of the things that we hope that hunters will not do is kind of take a time out from hunting. We need hunters to manage these animals, and so we're going to monitor our license sales, of course, over time. But that's one thing that we want to assure folks is that hunting will still continue, and go out and enjoy the resource. And if you harvest an animal and it appears healthy, then take advantage of that. Enjoy it.
Right.
Don't let this disease take that joy from you.
Okay. This is from Cleburne County. If you harvest a deer and you become concerned that it may be infected, what to do with the carcass?
Yeah. Burial is always a preferred. Landfill, lined landfill, incineration. We all don't have those in our backyard, but use those if you have them. And then leave it in the county that you harvest in. Don't take it to Union County and dump it out.
Right. Now, you guys are going to be traveling the state over the next several weeks, I would assume, talking about this. What are some of the points that you really want, and we've talked about several of them here tonight, but the most important points you want to make to those of us who hunt and enjoy hunting?
I know these guys will have their own, but what I would like to stress to the hunters is this disease takes its time. It moves slow across the landscape, and so therefore we should take our time with our recommendations and our restrictions. And I think what we have is a conservative approach to managing this disease. But we need hunters to understand that it's a long process. And I know it's been said numerous times about being a marathon, but we need to be committed together. We're all in this together. We all enjoy the resource, whether on this side of the gun or the other side of the gun. But let's all enjoy it. But let's all understand that the things that we do must be for the long term.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think we want people to understand that any animal that appears sick shouldn't be eaten. But in states that have already had chronic wasting disease, there's been no evidence so far of people getting CWD from eating venison or elk. And so I think we need to just use a dose of common sense.
Related to that, Sue, I think we need to remember that currently chronic wasting disease is confined to the deer family, Cervidae.
Right.
So we've got elk and mule deer, a white-tailed deer, moose, and caribou or reindeer. So far, it has not moved across those species barriers, and so it seems as if that our cattle are safe, our goats are safe, our sheep are safe, and that's an important thing to remember.
Okay.
That's a good point.
Let's take a look at the map again where there are instances of CWD, and I think one of the states that also has been positive is Missouri. And this question from Craighead County, is there going to be a ban on the transport of animals from Missouri to Arkansas?
There already is, actually, except for like what Corey was talking about before, deboned meat and that list of items. Whole carcasses cannot be brought into Missouri currently. Just to add to what Don and Corey and Sue said earlier, if you're a hunter, keep hunting. We need you to keep hunting. Enjoy the resource. This is not the end of the world. It's not a crisis. It's not good news. Nobody's happy about this, but we're going to get through it. And please, we need the hunting community to be patient with us. This did not happen overnight, and it's not going to be. We're not going to solve the problem overnight. It's going to take time. It's going to likely take decades to address it. It's a long-term commitment and something that is very near and dear to all of our hearts. So we're committed.
Okay. Here's a question from Pope County. Do all hunters statewide need to pull all deer mineral blocks from the feed areas of now? Please, I need to know because I have some out right now. And I think the question may help if it could be answered on the air. So here we go.
Of course, we're going to recommend that you do. It's not regulation. It's not anything that we're mandating. But again, for the sake of the wildlife, and that's the angle that we're going to come at is for the health of the wildlife. We recommend that you pull all salt licks, mineral licks, and do not place those out.
I'm encouraged by the response from people who are hunters who are saying, what can I do? How do I do this? That question, do I need to pull those mineral blocks in now? So it seems like the hunting community they're on the forefront of this thing and they're willing to help. So that's got to be encouraging to you guys.
That's absolutely critical, because we can put whatever we want to on paper, we can make whatever regulations we want to and put them on paper recommendations, but ultimately it's up to the hunter to pull the trigger or not, to abide by the regulations or not, abide by the recommendations or not. And we need that support from them, and I'm glad that we have it. The Hunters of Arkansas are really, really supportive of everything that Arkansas Game and Fish does.
Good. Why wait until January 1st to ban the urine products, the biofluids, the deer scents, the detractants?
Yeah, that's basically to just address stores that have actually already ordered products and have them on their shelves. It's just a little bit of a time lag there to help them reduce their inventory. I mean, that's all it is to it. Our staff felt like it would be too heavy-handed to make them get rid of their stuff right now. Give them a little time to just get rid of their inventory.
If there is a bright side to this, it's that you've had some time. And have you visited other states that have had this problem before it was confirmed in Arkansas, and were there some ideas that you could borrow from them that has helped already here?
We've been in contact with many states, and cried on their shoulders and all that stuff. But yes, sir. The short answer is that we're in contact daily with states that are positive, but also our neighboring states that are not positive, Louisiana and Mississippi, that have not detected the disease. They're asking us, what can we learn from you? And but also we've recently had a meeting with 3 CWD experts from around the nation, and so we've sat down for 3 days with those folks, and they were gracious enough to come to Little Rock and visit with us to help us direct our path and direct our course. And so we've been very fortunate in that many states have reached out, many professionals have reached out to help us set a course for this disease.
Okay, we got less than a minute left. What is your hope over the next decade? What would be the best scenario for Arkansas?
We got 2 goals. One is to stabilize prevalence. Right now we're at 23%. As we monitor that through time, and like Dick said, even in terms of decades, we hope that prevalence rate maintains at 23%.
Or lower.
Or lower. Then second is containment. If we can keep that disease in those counties that we just shown, then that's a success. We'll take that victory. But the last thing we want is this disease to show up in other parts of the state. So that's our 2 goals right now that we're marching towards.
Okay. Unfortunately, we're out of time. This hour has gone by quickly, but I certainly appreciate all of you coming in. Some really good answers, and some questions that there aren't answers to yet. So we'll continue to work on this. Hopefully we can do this again as you make progress. Again, thank you all for being with us.
Thank you.
I certainly appreciate all of you at home watching tonight. Again, thank you. If you need more information, contact the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. They have plenty of information for you, and hopefully we can do this again. Thank you for joining us, and good night.